Welcome! You're tuned into Tangled Threads. If you're digging our content, hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you. Now guys, I won't lie, this story is a bit older, but I promise it's a good one. Let's go. Christmas time has always been special for my family. Each year, we gather around in our grandparents' old house, beautifully decorated with lights and Christmas ornaments. Memories of past years and the fragrance of freshly baked cookies envelop the house in a comforting blanket of warmth and nostalgia. This year, however, that warmth would be tainted. My husband Jake and I had been together for 5 years. We'd had our ups and downs like any couple, but our bond felt strong. As we stepped out of the car, I noticed someone familiar in the driveway. It was Susan, my distant cousin. My heart sank slightly. I hadn't expected her to be here. Susan always had a peculiar knack for being overly friendly with other people's husbands. From what I had heard, she had caused quite a few problems at her workplace and at various public events. Thankfully, my family had never seen that side of her. They always thought she was just a bubbly, affectionate person. As we approached the entrance, Susan greeted Jake with an overenthusiastic hug, making my defenses rise instantly. Pulling him aside, I whispered, "Watch out for Susan. She has a history with married men." He looked puzzled for a moment, but reassured me. "Don't worry, Chelsea, I've got this. Let's just have a good time." Before the dinner began, as I was admiring the Christmas decorations in the living room and chatting idly with Jake, Susan made her way over to us with a drink in hand. "Jake, it's been such a long time. You're looking good," Susan purred, her eyes lingering on him a bit too long. Thanks, Susan," Jake replied, a hint of nervousness in his voice. He took a sip of his drink, avoiding direct eye contact with her. I tried to diffuse the palpable tension. "So, Susan, how have you been? How's work?" "Oh, the usual," she replied, her eyes still fixated on Jake. "But let's not talk about boring old work. Jake, have you been working out? You look more defined." Jake cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. A bit, just trying to stay fit." His gaze darted around the room as if looking for an escape. I could sense something was off. Jake's behavior was uncharacteristically evasive. Wanting to steer the conversation away from any further awkwardness, I interjected, "Well, dinner's almost ready. Let's head to the table." Susan gave a slight smirk and took a step back. "Of course, wouldn't want to miss the feast. Catch up with you both later." She winked and sauntered off. Jake downed the rest of his drink and sighed. "She's a lot," he commented. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my suspicion rising. He quickly brushed it off. "Yeah, just wasn't expecting her to be so forward. Don't worry about it." Though I tried to push my doubts aside, that brief interaction was enough to set me on edge for the rest of the evening. Little did I know that it was just the beginning of the night's revelations. Dinner was announced, and as everyone settled around the large dining table, I noticed Susan taking the seat right across from Jake. My gut churned. I caught her sending him a series of discreet glances throughout the meal, and the air became palpably tense. As the dinner wore on, I felt increasingly uneasy. At one point, I accidentally dropped my fork. Bending down to retrieve it, I noticed Susan's foot sliding along Jake's leg, her toes doing a dance that was far too intimate for a family dinner. My heart raced as I discreetly took out my phone and captured what was going on under the table. I was livid. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and an array of emotions I couldn't even articulate. But I held my composure, deciding to confront them later. I wanted to enjoy my evening with the family I loved. After dinner, as everyone was moving to the living room for some light-hearted Christmas games, the weight of what I'd witnessed pressed heavily on me. Taking a deep breath, I decided it was time to address the issue. "Could everyone gather around, please? I have something important to show you all," I announced, my voice filled with a mix of sadness and anger. Curious faces turned to me, their chatter quieting down. I connected my phone to the TV and projected the image for everyone to see. There, enlarged for the entire room to witness, was the incriminating photograph of Susan's foot, intimately caressing Jake's leg. A stunned silence filled the room, the only sound being the soft hum of the Christmas lights. Jake looked like a deer caught in headlights, his face drained of color, while Susan appeared frozen, her mouth slightly open. My younger brother Tom was the first to react. "Is this for real?" he exclaimed, pointing at the screen. My Aunt Maria, always the vocal one, chimed in. "What on earth is going on here? Susan, are you out of your mind?" Susan stuttered, clearly caught off guard. It's not what it looks like." Jake took a deep breath and stammered, I don't know what to say. It was a mistake." A flurry of murmurs and whispers filled the room. I could see the expressions on my family's faces shifting from shock to anger. My grandmother, her eyes welling up with tears, spoke up in a shaky voice. "I never thought I'd see the day when something like this would happen in our family. Jake, Susan, it's best if you leave now." As Jake and Susan hastily made their way to the door, I could feel my strength waning. The weight of what had transpired bore down on me, and I crumbled onto the couch, sobbing. My younger sister Lily wrapped her arm around me, pulling me into a tight embrace. "We're here for you," she whispered softly. Tom, always the problem solver, spoke up. "You don't need to go through this alone. If you want, we can help you figure things out with Jake. Whatever decision you make, we stand by you." Aunt Maria added, "You're strong, darling. We've got your back no matter what." The night continued with my family rallying around me, offering their unwavering support. They took turns talking to me, offering words of comfort, and reassuring me that they were by my side. That night, the true meaning of family was reinforced in my heart. Amidst the pain and betrayal, the love and support of my loved ones shone brightly, reminding me of the unwavering bond that we shared. That night, Christmas was no longer about festivities or joy. It was about loyalty, the bond of family, and the painful realization that sometimes those you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. But with the dawn of a new day, and with the support of my loved ones, I knew I would find the strength to move on and rebuild. Update. A few weeks after the Christmas incident, I decided to file for divorce. The betrayal had cut deep, and I knew there was no going back. The day we had to appear in court, my nerves were on edge. To my utter disbelief, Jake had the audacity to walk into the courtroom with Susan on his arm. She wore a smug smile while Jake looked defiant. My heart pounded, anger simmering under the surface. Their audacity knew no bounds. My attorney had briefed me about Jake's intentions. He was asking for alimony, claiming that he had been the primary breadwinner and deserved compensation. While he did earn more, I had made significant contributions and sacrifices throughout our marriage. I was ready to fight this. As the proceedings began, Jake's lawyer argued that he deserved a fair portion of my assets. They painted a picture of him as the responsible husband who had been led astray momentarily. My lawyer presented a solid case, highlighting my contributions, both financial and non-financial, to our life together. He also discreetly hinted at Jake's infidelity, which, while not the primary focus of the case, did not paint him in a good light. The judge, a stern middle-aged woman with sharp features, listened to both sides with an impassive face. After what felt like hours, she made her decision. Given the circumstances and the evidence presented, I find no justification for Mr. Jake's request for alimony. On the contrary, I believe this woman deserves compensation for her contributions and sacrifices, she announced. Jake's face went pale, and Susan looked like she'd been slapped. Victory surged through me, not because of the money, but because justice had been served. After the judge's decision, as the courtroom was slowly emptying out, Jake approached me hesitantly. I could see the desperation in his eyes, which were once filled with confidence. "Chelsea," he began, taking a deep breath. "I know I messed up big time. I let my guard down and made a mistake. But what we had, the years we spent together, they mean something. Can we at least try to rebuild it? It feels like you don't even care about the time we spent. I think you're being a selfish ass by doing this." His plea caught me off guard. After everything that had transpired, I hadn't expected him to ask this, especially in this manner. "What the fuck do you mean I'm being an ass? What in the goddamn—" I was cut off. Before I could gather my thoughts and finish formulating my response, the unmistakable sound of Susan's voice rang out from Jake's pocket. His phone lit up, and Susan's name flashed on the screen, accompanied by an emoji-laden message. Without answering, he quickly silenced it, looking even more sheepish. I took a moment and then replied, "Jake, that call just now, it's a testament to our current situation. Even now, after everything, you're still entangled with her. I deserve better than this. We both deserve clarity. You've made your choices, and now it's time to live with them." Jake's face crumbled in defeat. "I'm genuinely sorry," he whispered. I nodded. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Jake." Turning my back on the past, I walked away, knowing I was headed in the right direction for my future. Outside the courtroom, as Jake and Susan walked away with their tails between their legs, a familiar face approached me. It was Daniel, a college friend who had become a successful entrepreneur. He'd heard about the divorce and had come to offer his support. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," he said gently. but I'm glad to see you stand your ground. Over the next few weeks, Daniel and I reconnected. He was everything Jake wasn't: kind, considerate, and loyal. It was a refreshing change. We started dating, and I felt a sense of happiness and security I hadn't felt in years. While the scars of betrayal still lingered, with Daniel's unwavering support and love, I began to heal. I realized that sometimes life had a way of bringing better things after the storm had passed. Jesus! Jake wanted to play footsie under the table and ended up getting kicked to the curb instead. What an idiot. What do you think? Let us know in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.